Welcome to Forbidden Planet 42 and welcome to Behind the Scenes at Forbidden Planet. This time with a gentleman that I've known for 25 years, who I've worked with directly for 11 years, and who has worked for Forbidden Planet for 35 years. And this is none other than Forbidden Planet's Group Operations Director, our Deputy CEO, Mr. Leigh Baulch. How are you, mate?
Overwhelmed by the introduction, quite frankly.
You deserve every second of it, man.
I just turn up every day and I do what I do. It doesn't sound that grandiose when you're actually dealing with it. So, you know.
This is a true story, folks, that Leigh has got probably the most well-rounded, massive skill set out of anybody I've ever met, of everybody I've ever worked with. And if you've ever been in the flagship store in London on Shaftesbury Avenue, I marvelled at the design of it. This is the man who designed that store right here. And that is just a very small part of what he does on a daily basis.
Slightly on that point. The London megastore was in fact a group effort by Nick, Vivian and myself and a couple of contractors. I've pretty much designed every other megastore since, but I can't wholly lay claim to the title of designing 179. So.
Now, while that's very magnanimous of you to say, mate, I do know that Vivian and Nick, who are our owners, our CEOs, in a meeting with myself not 2 days ago, credited you with the design of the London store.
I'll take it.
So yeah, mate, don't fight it off. Just embrace it. Yeah, but if you've ever been in the Forbidden Planet store at any point in the last 30 years and had a brilliant time, the guy right here has had a tremendous amount to do with that. And over those 35 years, Leigh, what have you got any particular memories that spring to mind? Because you, like all of us, are a big fan of pop culture in all its forms.
Indeed, I was a customer of Forbidden Planet before I worked for the company. So I was there from when they opened. And obviously prior to that, I was a customer in Dark They Were and Golden Eyes. So before their demise. So yeah, I've been here for a long time on factory on both sides of the counter, really. So I would say that I haven't always worked on the retail side. I did actually join as part of the publishing team when the publishing team was 5 people in the basement of Forbidden Planet 2, which, if anybody remembers that far back, was a very colourful environment.
I loved Forbidden Planet 42, Forbidden Planet 2 rather. Thought it was a great store. You and I have talked about it a bunch in the past, of course, but that was in the very early days of Titan Books, right, mate?
That's correct. Nick had effectively set up Titan Books on his kitchen table, as the story goes, and he was obviously responsible for the day-to-day running of the retail stores as they were in that point in time. And publishing was effectively what he did in his evenings, as I recall. He can probably flesh it out slightly more than I can. By the time I joined the company, early '86, they had a permanent staff of 4 and I think 3 or 4 freelancers. And I came in as the new boy. And I was primarily working on production and design. I started my career in advertising. I did 5 years in advertising working for an illustrator's agent, which is kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an illustrator. And advertising was actually easier to get into than publishing in those days. So I started off there. During the time after that, I ended up freelancing for Marvel UK, where Paul Neary gave me my first break. Paul's professional and personal partner, Bernie J, ended up working for Nick as his editor. And when I saw a vacancy appear with her name on it, I exploited it for all it was worth.
Yeah, of course. Very wise.
Indeed. So, so I got in the door there. Culturally, it was slightly different to where I'd worked previously. Very, very relaxed. Deadlines were not necessarily the highest priority. And obviously along the way, I've learned to sort of manage projects slightly better than we were doing in the early days. Obviously, when you're working with building contractors, it's all about hitting the deadlines, you know. So in late '99, Nick and Vivian wanted to modernise retail, which was the poor part of the family at that point in time. And I was brought in to effectively oversee the introduction of point of sale system, EPOS system, and to take over the running and the management and the modernisation of the stores. The stores at that point in time were classic comic book stores, you know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Heavy on testosterone, men clustered around the counter, and cleaning was one of those things you did if you felt like it, you know. So my aim was to make the stores more professional, more modern, more family friendly, and I'd like to think we've succeeded to some degree with that. So.
No, you 100% have. I was describing somebody the other day, our mutual friend Terry Jervis, in fact, as temples of diversity, which is really what they are. You know, and that's absolutely down to all the work that you guys did, putting it all together and you know, presenting Forbidden Planet you know, for the modern era and modernising the store. I mean, really, what Forbidden Planet is now, the comics is always going to be in its DNA, but it's just one facet of what it actually is.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we are very privileged now to be the epicenter of pop culture, when the rest of the world has caught up to what we were fans of 30 years ago.
Absolutely right, and it's an agenda you guys should be very proud of setting, I think, particularly in terms of its tremendous inclusivity. And you know, the great thing, I mean, I come from a family who are, you know, obsessed with sport, and sport's a great thing. But, you know, one of the things about sport is, you know, it's essentially about winning and losing. And you get people who have a certain level of fitness where they can play and a certain level of people who can't. And the great thing about the pop culture world that FP has been very much a part of fostering is that everybody can embrace and enjoy it, irrespective of, you know, race, creed, gender identity, colour. You know, it's for everyone, which I think is a beautiful thing.
Actually, the one sector you missed off of that was disability as well, and that's one of the things I'm probably proudest of, is that every one of our stores is disability friendly, you know. So we've gone out of our way to ensure that there are lifts, and we, you know, we do our best to ensure that the walkways are wide enough that people who don't have the ability just to walk around can have a good shopping experience as well as, you know. So
yeah, well, I mean, and that's something to really be proud of, I think, mate. Well done. You know, that's awesome, and I know it's appreciated. You know, from the broad range of customers we both speak to, it's a great thing. Are there any kind of signings that stand out to you as the great moments for you, the fan?
The ones I enjoyed as a fan are probably not the ones I had to run.
Yeah.
So I had the joy of stumbling across one of my heroes, which was Frank Hampson.
Yeah, absolutely.
I literally didn't know the signing was on in the store. This would have been latter part of the 80s when they were publishing the 12-inch Dan Dare reprints, you know, 12-inch. And I just literally wandered in the store on a Saturday, you know, being in the West End and going shopping, and he was sitting at the back on his own, no one pestering him, and I went up to him and said, "Oh, thank you very much. You know, can you sign all these books for me? You know, you're a great hero of mine." So, so that's probably, you know, unexpectedly probably one of the most pleasurable. So.
Yeah, I mean, that does sound like a great moment. And for the people watching this, mate, could you just explain your link to the Sandman?
It's smaller than I think most people make out, but I met Neil the year I joined Titan. He was, I think, trying to negotiate to get the Douglas Adams book or another book. I can't honestly remember. And we crossed paths, and then we ended up both looking to work on a comic that was being packaged by a chap called Hunter Tremaine. And to that, I didn't know Neil was pitching to do work for it. I just thought it's some comic strip work, do it in the evenings, do it at the weekends. It'd be nice to keep my hand in. And basically, I ended up working with Neil on visualizing his cyberpunk comic strip. I'm trying to remember the name of it. He'll kill me for not remembering. And I did a lot of the character design and then passed it on to somebody else. I was also working on one of those strips, and I'd seen the work of a chap called Dave McKean at one of the Westminster comic marts, and I contacted him and suggested maybe, you know, he'd like to pitch to do something on it as well, because to me he seemed like this incredible talent. He wasn't really doing much professionally at that point in time, and he joined in as well, and that's how he and Neil met. So And then a year or so later, Neil does the pitch for the Sandman, and Dave does some initial visuals for it. And I did another bunch as well, which included, I'm reasonably certain, the first visualizations of death. So, if I have a claim, I probably got to draw death first. So,
which, as claims go, in this pop culture world of ours, is a pretty fucking massive claim, actually, mate.
Neil, at any point, I'm happy for you to correct me if my memory is wrong. Yeah. Heading towards 40 years ago, so
yeah,
my recollection isn't that clear. So so I did some of that stuff for that. The book got allocated to oh god, who was it? Sam Keith.
Yes, yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Absolutely.
And obviously he did his thing, and then it evolved into what it is. But I think one of Neil's great strengths is, he writes towards what artists excel at. So he tailors his stories to work well with the person he's actually got illustrating the books. So you've seen that time after time after time on Sandman and on other things as well. So
yeah, here, mate. That's thanks for sharing that, because I think it's a great story, and it's a story that not many people have heard, and thanks for being so candid about it. That's Before fine. We go, mate, Leigh, have you got anything that you would like to share with our glorious customers?
Yeah, I mean, Forbidden Planet is nothing without our loyal and long-serving customer base. Really, we exist because they like what we do, and they spend a lot of their hard-earned income with us. So I'm forever grateful that that they choose us over potentially other places. I would like to think we offer a very wide range in most of our stores, particularly the mega stores, and I just hope that they would continue coming back to us for as long as they can.
Yeah, right on. Here, mate. And I'm sure they will, thanks to your fine work and the fine work of your team. So, mate, it's been great talking to you, as always. Obviously, the funny thing is, Leigh and I used to have offices next door to each other for about 10 years. So, Leigh has talked to me far more in his life than he's ever wanted to. And this has continued that fine tradition. But, mate, thank you for sharing your history with FP, which is a really key piece of Forbidden Planet history. And here's to another glorious 35 years for you at Forbidden Planet, which I can see you're looking forward to already.
Oh, you wouldn't believe.
and this has been Forbidden Planet 42 behind the scenes, and you have been watching the man, the myth, the Titanic legend, Mr. Leigh Baulch. Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. See you soon. Bye-bye.